about musicians and cool things and stuff. It's a Holly and Josh
I'm actually dressed today. Well, I had to get dressed to go to the shop.
Yeah, that's the only reason, isn't it? It's going to the shop and teaching music lessons online via video calls. That's the only things I get dressed for. When you take the bins out, you should really put clothes on. But
yeah,
anyway,
maybe.
Welcome to this naked edition of the Harley and Josh Show, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much for tuning in. So Harley is in his house. I am in my house.
Yeah.
Harley, it's wonderful to hear your voice. We've been off for about 2 weeks, just to make sure that we collect enough stuff to talk about. Otherwise, it just gets very much of like, what did you do last week? Just wandered from the bathroom to the couch and then back to the bathroom again and then up to bed. So
I fully expect, I mean, we've already started, but I fully expect like a few months down the line of doing this, it's going to be a big story when one of us gets dressed.
Breaking news. Harley has pants on.
Put my big pants on.
So, Harley, speaking of not getting dressed and not being bothered to do stuff, you were saying that it'd be really interesting to talk about how this lockdown, affects us as musicians and mentally a bit.
Yeah. I think that's a really important thing. I've got to be honest. It has been a bit of a struggle for me the last few weeks.
How so, man?
Kind of. There's as you look online, there's a lot of negativity, and if you're keeping up to date with the news, which I've trying to stop doing, you do see. I mean, the death toll keeps rising. It's not going to go down. No one's going to undie, apart from that one guy in Finland. What undied? What was it? Iceland?
What? Who undied?
Oh, there was a glitch on the stats, and it said like deaths caused by thingy, and I think it was in Iceland or Finland or somewhere like that. The death toll was -1.
Brilliant. He's just like, I'm okay. I'm not dead. I'm getting better.
Yeah, exactly. I was like, I don't know what happened to make that happen.
They're
but
just
hey,
hardy people up there,
what
I
happened.
suppose.
Yeah, I guess so. But yeah, it's been like it's been interesting. Like for myself, we're in a very small flat. We're trying not to go out as much as possible. And also when we do go out on our allotted walks and stuff like that, we kind of have to avoid our normal walking place because it seems to be there's a lot of people who have their daily walk on the beach.
Right.
Which is not, if you're traveling down to the beach to do that, don't do that. Like, you shouldn't be traveling way out of your way. It's just
driving.
Where our doorstep is a hot spot for that kind of thing. Right. So so we find ourselves walking around the boring houses rather than the pretty beach that we can see out of our window.
I see. Yeah, I see what you mean. It's difficult because just trying to stop people from driving out of their way to do stuff is tough. And even when people talk to me about it, they're like, "Oh, I just went up to the Norfolk Broads for a walk and stuff." And you're sitting there gritting your teeth going, "You're an idiot. Why did you do that? You're making other people's lives harder."
Yeah, exactly. And, we did... we were a little naughty in the first few weeks. Not majorly. I had to go around my parents' house to pick up some equipment so we could do more recording. And also we had some deliveries and some letters from the bank saying, "We still need your money."
Yeah, exactly. Right. Tell me about it.
We went for a walk around the fields around there, and we were very careful. We made sure we went round whilst our parents weren't there because we didn't want to cross contaminate them at all. But again, we did that when we were sort of needed some time out of the house just to kind of recalibrate and
absolutely
be a bit sounder of mind, because like I say, it's difficult times when all you have is 8 walls because we've got 2 rooms,
right? And
there's not a lot of stimulation to kind of do that. I'm an outdoorsy person. If I'm struggling, if I'm having a bad day, I like to go out, go for a walk, go for a bike ride, go shopping, whatever, just to be around, just to be in a new space and with some open air and stuff like that. And that kind of vice that's been taken away from me.
So what have you been?
That's where my struggle has been.
Yeah. What have you replaced it with?
I try and do my allocated walks and still as much as I can. I'm playing a lot of games on my phone, which is definitely not a good idea. But hey, that's a good distraction from the rest of the world.
Why is it not a good idea? You can do what you want if it makes you happy, Harley.
Well, that's it. I think it's we do try and have ourselves a no screen time during the day.
Good idea.
One thing we found is because of where the sun sits. If we're watching telly, we have to close the curtains.
Right.
And if we try not to watch telly during the day. So otherwise, like that way, we actually get some sunlight in. But also, we've been bird training quite a lot.
I thought you said bear training just then. Crikey.
Yeah.
So that's amazing. That helps things.
Yeah, that's a lot of people have been seeing most of my newsfeed on Facebook is bird stuff more than music stuff, which is a interesting thing.
Switch,
a lot of people do not care. I fully know. I uploaded a video last night of our bird Brandon yawning. And I overdubbed a dinosaur noise to it.
Great. Well, they are dinosaurs.
Because I did it in slow-mo.
Technically. So.
They are. Charlie didn't know that T-Rexes had feathers.
Yeah, or dino fuzz.
Yeah, dinosaurs had feathers of sorts, and it blew her mind. It was amazing.
She's like, oh my God, I could teach them how to do tricks too.
And I was a bit sad because I know some scientists had bred a chicken to be more like a dinosaur by giving it a snout and teeth.
I heard this.
And I wonder whether the coronavirus situation is halting that progress because... I mean, getting a little bit closer to Dinosaur World and Jurassic Park, or whatever you want to call it, is. I'm fully on board with that. You have to remain optimistic in these times.
Yeah. You spent all this time worrying whether you could do something like this. You didn't think about whether you should. So you'll get it on a lunchbox and you sell it. You sell it. It's all Jurassic Park, mate. The only problem that's going to happen is this fuzzy little T-Rex is going to come out and then get the sniffles. And then what will happen is that it'll get over coronavirus really quickly, and then they'll take over the world again, and then we'll have done it to ourselves this time.
Are you proposing a Jurassic Park War of the Worlds kind of crossover?
I'm proposing a truce
where dinosaurs take over the world.
Yeah, I'm proposing that we should lay down our arms and be subservient to our new dinosaur masters. I've already given up.
I, for one, welcome our feathered overlords.
That very, very fun subject, this whole coronavirus thing, isn't it? And it just affects absolutely everything. So obviously we are musicians. How has music helped you to get out of this slump?
I have been delving into a lot of old songs I haven't played for a while. I've been talking about doing more bass covers. We did the one take thing that's been going around, which has been great. That's kind of in its second wave of circulation, which is really cool. Seeing some people doing a second take, well, not a second take,
a second one take, a 1 second take. Oh, okay.
Yeah, which is great. And there's some really cool stuff because everyone's got nothing else to do. They're picking some really like complex songs and some really interesting songs that I hadn't heard, and that's what I'm doing. I'm going back to songs that I haven't played for years. There's a Muse song I used to play in Mohawk back in the day, which I'm getting back on because I've Newborn.
Oh, it's a good one. Yeah.
Do you know that one?
Yeah.
It is so hard on bass.
Yeah.
I went to do a take on it yesterday, and I was like, I'm cramping up because I haven't played that kind of speed in so long.
So many octave leaps, aren't there?
Yeah, it's just arpeggiated all the way, and like it's just like 16th note, like string skipping, silly stuff, like distorted out of its brain. It's great. It's wonderful.
Have you been using the Helix?
And I'm playing it. I've been using the Helix. I've also been using my 5-string Status graphite bass as well, which I believe is what they used on the original recording.
That's
was a 5-string Status.
Cool.
Which which is great because it does sound the part. It sounds great. It looks awesome as well. And I've been just playing around with lots of distortions and getting that right kind of fuzz sound.
So I know
it's hard to get right.
I know that TC Electronic do those tone print style things, right? So where an artist will upload parts of their tone, and then you can sort of download that onto your pedals. Are there artists doing that with Helix stuff so that you can actually get that Muse sound?
I haven't found like original artists doing it as yet.
Right.
I saw a guy who was, it was a guy on Reddit, and I think he might have been Avril Lavigne's bass player.
Right.
And he used the Helix to replicate the exact bass tone from every studio album.
That's interesting.
And just had a preset for each song. He might have released his patches or his pedal board for people to download.
Right.
I'm not 100% sure on that one, but he may have done. But a lot of the content that seems to be put up online is user content. Yeah, so I did the Luminol bass cover a couple weeks ago.
That was very good.
My one take using a SVT Ampeg amp emulation, and it sounded amazing. And a lot of people go, "Can you upload the tone for that?" So I chucked it on the website for people to download. I think it's had quite a few downloads already. It's people are like, it's really good, and it's a really sharing community.
So on the Helix website,
use it. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And you can filter by which version of the Helix that you have as well, which is great.
Oh, that's very cool.
Yeah. So there are loads of people doing stuff like that. I don't know if there are any artists who are doing it, like original artists who are uploading their tones and stuff.
Yeah.
But there are some great stuff out there.
Because usually it's do with artists that are endorsed by a specific company that will do that, won't they? And they'll sort of sit there and do those big, rig rundowns as part of their sponsorship. But I've not actually heard of any.
I love watching those videos.
They're great, aren't they? But I've not really had any idea of whether Helix have endorsed artists and the other way around to see whether they run through their patches, etc.
Yeah, I might do a quick bit of research on that.
If you guys are listening in, can research that and let us know. That'd be really interesting as well. Or if that's obviously a thing and we're being idiotic, we like to know when we're being idiots.
Billy Sheehan. Oh yeah. So here's an interesting thing. Billy Sheehan has his own. He uses a specific compressor for his gigs.
Right.
And in the latest update, that compressor got put onto the files.
Wow.
So you could now use his exact compressor, as it's a multi-band compressor designed for bass.
That is very, very interesting. Yeah, because I mean, when you work with, some of the biggest names and very proggy names as well, he's worked with, so people would be very interested in his tone. But I think it depends on fan base as well, isn't it? Like, if you're a fan of, punk rock. Where it's sort of very much just a kind of stick your instrument into the amp and just go with it, not really focusing too much on the tone. You're not going to be sitting there going, "Oh, I wonder, what the tone for Green Day would be."
Mike Dirnt.
There we go. I really want to know what Mike Dirnt's tone would be like. That there's a lot of people that would be sitting there listening to Porcupine Tree or Mr. Big or something like this would be going, "I really want to know what tone they're using there because I want to be intricate with it."
Yeah, that's it. That's the thing. There's a lot of like proggy artists on here actually. Jeff Loomis, Devik McKay, don't know the name, but the band 12 Foot Ninja are what a favourite band of mine.
Really?
I don't know if you know them. They are hilarious. I'll send you a link at the end of the show.
Please do, yeah. Because anybody listening in, if you listen to that one.
They are a very funny band. They're very proggy. They do not take themselves too seriously, but musically they are genius.
That is really good.
Don't let me forget that.
Okay, yeah.
I'm going to send that to you.
12 foot spiders. No, 12 monkey legs. No, I've forgotten what they're called. So you've been doing the covers, the 1 second takes, just going, right, here's a song in 1 second. And
I should do that.
That would be great.
Totally do that.
So much easier. Or if you were doing really, being really super specific with it, then you'd have to play all the notes of that song in 1 second. So that may be harder. But I know that you were also doing some writing with Charlie last time we spoke.
Yeah, so we've finished. What have we been doing? So last time we spoke, we had one song nearly finished. which she'd kind of written, and I'd put some music to.
Nice.
And I've been quite experimental with how I've done that, and I'm quite happy with how that's come out. We may even release something like that on our page next week. It's just Charlotte Sutton.
Is that facebook.com/Charlie Sutton?
I think it's .com/Charlotte Sutton Music, I believe.
Okay, cool.
There we go. We've written a song together, which has been really nice. I'm yet to record. I need to re-record the guitars and stuff because they were recorded very out of time. Whilst we were just laying down ideas, we were just, when you're in the moment, you're like throwing ideas down. You're like, add this, add that, or that, and then we're like, okay, let's now make it sound good.
Yeah.
So we're now in the making it sound good.
Removing the
process.
kitchen sink.
Yeah, yeah. Well, we've got the instrumentation right. It's just I was like rushing to get guitars done. Also, the vocals, she was whispering because it was 11:15 at night, and we were like, well, I don't know if the neighbours want to hear this, but
you don't want to belt
whilst they're trying to sleep. So we're gonna redo the vocals with a bit of power to them.
I think that's what's happening with a lot of this is people are realizing that they live next door to musicians a lot more.
Yeah, that's it. It's a really interesting one there. Jamie Lenman,
right?
He did a commentary on his album. I can't remember which album it was, the one before last, and he was saying, like, talking between songs, he's like, notice how this one's sung really quietly. Guess what time of night I was recording that? And then the more louder ones he was writing during the day.
That's interesting.
So like the time of the day can affect the time that you record, like what happens.
That's very interesting. I think that's a good idea. Just as an aside, doing an album commentary. Do people do that much that you follow?
From what I understand, this was a Spotify commissioned thing.
Right.
So it was the Spotify sessions where he talked about it. So I don't know many artists that have done it, but he's one of them.
Wouldn't that be great? Because I mean, I think that would be a great thing for people to do during this lockdown time. If they've released an album, if they released a single or something like that, just release a sort of a take of them talking over the top of the album as well, and just explaining their choices in certain places and the way they recorded it, etc. It would be a really interesting insight into people's music.
Yeah, it's really cool. He talks between the songs about them. So you listen to the song and then he goes, this is what happened and this is what's going on and this is what's happened with the next song. He talked about like the writing. He also talked about the influence that he had from the producer, a guy called Space.
That's a great name.
Born with it. And also just like he said about like one song, he's like, I didn't really want this on the album. I didn't think this was going to be a hit, but the label said, go with this because I think this will be a good song. And he's said how they made the right decisions in that regard and stuff like that.
Exactly. I mean, it's difficult to
good bit of industry insight.
It's good. It's very difficult to talk about music, really. And we do this every single time. Every single time we do a show, we're talking about music. And if you think about talking about an art form is quite primitive how we describe it, because there's only a certain amount of words that you can say about something, and sort of talking about music is like talking about painting, it's like talking about cinema. It's a different medium to describe a different medium. It's like doing an interpretive dance about a West End musical to tell people what your opinion is. You're never going to get exactly the opinion that you wanted across. But if you are literally talking over a specific part and then you are saying about that particular bridge that you were working on between the verse and the chorus, and say why I chose those sounds, why I chose those chords, why I liked that lyric there. I think that'd be really interesting for people to listen to. But so, what would you release what would Charlotte release this under? Do you think she'd do an EP? Do you think she'd do a single?
She's already kind of written an EP with Rob Lewis.
Yes,
we're just waiting for that to get finished off. So whether these songs that we've done will get added to that, or whether they'll be to go towards the next thing, we're not sure. We haven't really spent too much time thinking about the audience. We're still very much of let's make a good song and we'll go from there.
Yeah.
And I think we've done that I think we made a good song.
Good. Yeah.
So
and it's also
that's a good start.
the difficulty is also if you're releasing EPs, etc., and collections of songs, it's releasing the singles at the right times as well, because you don't want to just sort of chuck out the best song you've written first when nobody knows who you are. It's that kind of, you want to get something out there that's good but not the best, so that when people are actually paying attention, then you release the best thing, and then they're already paying attention, kind of thing. So that'd be really interesting to see which ones you guys release.
Well, I was thinking of sitting down with you at some point and picking your brain with stuff like this, because you've got a bit more experience than myself in that regard. So
and it's all just trial and error, isn't it?
And because I'm asking you on air, you have to say yes.
Yes, 1,000 times yes. Well, that's really good, Harley. You're staying productive, mate. What about your own solo stuff? You've been writing some stuff for a while. Is there anything that you feel is close to being finished yet?
No. I'm working with ideas, and
It's a running gag on the show. It's the tease. It's the Harley tease. Every week he's like, "I've been working some of my solo stuff. You're gonna hear it, but when?" Yeah,
at this rate, it's going to be one of those posthumous albums. And I'm not expecting that I'll be dying anytime soon.
Of course, yeah.
I just think it's going to take ages.
Yeah.
No, I'm really bad at committing to ideas, so I think I just need to just commit and just go, you know what? I'm going to try and make the worst album I can. That way, if it's anything better than bad, if it's good, I win. If it's bad, I win. I think maybe I should do that.
It's like the producer's aesthetic, just make something that's going to be a flop, and then you succeeded at failing.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe
that's where I need to go.
I believe you will fail at failing. That's what you'll do. You're going to fail at failing. I don't believe in you in that respect.
Fair. Okay.
I think that's the only time I'll ever tell you.
There are so many double negatives.
Exactly. I don't know who I am. It's the mind maze. That's brilliant, mate. So what have you got planned for the next week then? Because you've said you've been very busy.
I've got collaborations that are kind of in the pipeline.
Are we allowed to know who?
We're working. We're trying to get some stuff done for Chart Attack, just to kind of remind people that we still exist. Mm-hmm. And just because you can't have a party with us doesn't mean you can't have a house party.
Right.
Like, without inviting people around, don't have an actual house party.
Yeah, of course. It's the party in your house.
Yeah, we've got a few bits and bobs that we need to do that I can't talk about. And just some other collaboration stuff that I'd like to make happen. That I may not have actually talked to anyone about, but I want to get the preliminary idea, so when I pitch it to someone, they'll go, yeah, that's a good idea, not, you have not thought about this. It's definitely not going to work. So, yeah.
That's a great idea.
That's kind of where we're at in that.
That's awesome, mate. Well, let's ask you the questions I always like to ask you. What was your favourite musical moment in the last few weeks?
Seeing Toby drumming to a awesome "We Are the Ocean" tune.
I saw that.
It's I find the name of the song. It's great. It's like a weird, like a proggy Bond song. I don't know if it actually was a Bond song, but it sounds like it is.
Right, that's cool.
And it's awesome. He's playing his. He's got this tiny little Tama kit that he got for his son, but it's put mesh heads on it and quiet cymbals.
Right.
And it's so he can play low volume, and it's just awesome. It's really good. So I'm looking forward to seeing more of that, and that was really good fun to do.
It was it was Arc by We Are the Ocean.
That's the one. Yeah. Great. I haven't heard them in years, and they seem to have changed their style.
Absolutely.
Quite a lot, and I really like what they're doing.
That's very cool. What about your favourite, the most important musical lesson from the last few weeks?
Ooh, I tell you what, it's not going to be a single thing. I've learned a lot. From writing with Charlie, because we've been writing together rather than just her writing, and kind of being a bit more relaxed in our writing style in terms of going, oh, we need to put something there. And I was like, cool, I've got nothing. She's like, all right, we'll just leave it. We'll just put a blank space and we'll work it out later.
Right.
That line doesn't sound very good. We'll leave that there and we'll put another line in when we can think of it. Because once we've got this down, once we start recording it, it's easier to drop in and go, let's see how that works and listen back to stuff. So it's that kind of go easy on yourself on writing, which might evolve into me actually writing something worthwhile in my posthumous terrible album, but we'll find out.
You heard it here first, folks. Harley's death album is going to be full of meaningful mistakes. Yeah.
So there we go. That is my last few weeks. What about yourself?
That's Harley's last few weeks. So this is a slightly drunk one. I'm not actually drunk. It's the middle of the day on a Monday. But or whatever day you are at the moment.
It's lockdown. That might be okay.
Exactly right. Who knows what's okay anymore? Yeah, well, it's been a few weeks, isn't it? So I've been since I spoke to you last. I've been focusing a little bit on my solo stuff and writing and recording some stuff for that. Actually, well, I say recording. I haven't really been recording it. I've been what I'm trying to do, which was like I was saying about releasing an album before, is sort of learning lessons and what you did wrong before. And I'm trying to hone the songs a bit before I put them to record. And so it's been really fun to go up and do on Facebook a kind of demos of the songs that I've been doing. Just to sort of like, because in times like this, you can't do some of the most important part of songwriting, which is almost like market testing, which is going to open mic nights and just gigging it and touring it. Some bands like East Town Pirates, they were gigging songs for 5 years before they released them on record. And so they would change, absolutely huge amounts between writing and recording. So I really am liking being a part of that process. And there's also... it's kind of affirming of songs when you actually get written responses to it. Somebody sitting there going, "Oh, I like that one," or I like the beat on that, or I like the riff, I like the tone, that kind of stuff. So you're actually getting specific feedback. Most of the time, people will go on. You're saying,
are you able to pick feedback from that kind of show? Because that kind of feedback that you get at a gig is not anything that's said, it's just a vibe you get from an audience.
Yeah, true.
Can you still kind of get that digitally?
Yeah, that's the interesting thing. That's a good point you're putting on there, Harley. Is that when you've got these live streams, you have time-stamped comments, so you can look at them in real time. And so when it is actually during that song... somebody will sit there and go, "Oh, I like that section," or "That bit was sick." It doesn't have to be, or the opposite. Like, "Yeah, I'm not sure about that." It doesn't have to be very specific because anybody here listening in who has played a gig before and asked people for feedback at the end, most of the time it was like, "Yeah, it's pretty good." And that's it. There's no specifics. There's no what you're really looking for is somebody to say, "Yeah, I didn't quite like what you did with the middle eight there," and you're going, "I knew that was going to be a gamble." There is actually stuff that you want to hear, but you won't hear it. I mean, it's very rare that somebody will give you some honest, unfiltered feedback and very specific to songwriting or the sound that you're making. They'll be mostly focusing on the show because people are a very visual animal, aren't we? It's been interesting to have that where I play something and somebody immediately says, "That was good," or "That wasn't quite so good." And then going back to the drawing board, because everything's so digital, you can actually pick that part of your song rather than it just being a bit in your brain or some written down on scrawled notepad. It's actually there. You've got something. You've got a structure already in your work sessions, in Logic or in Pro Tools and something, so you can actually go in and slice bits up. Before you lay it down and then release it to the world thinking it's going to be the next best thing, and then you realize it's something that you haven't worked on. So yeah, that's been really fun. doing that has been an interesting foray into the live setup that I would be using. Because, I remember talking to you about this before we went into lockdown, was that I'd like to go into, the gigging circuit solo, just by myself, playing these sort of new songs of mine, but with drum beats in the background. So finding a way for me to be able to actually control that live and also have the right setup so that it's actually got a full sound and it's not just me playing a guitar and some drums, which can sound very, very thin and weak. So finding the right way to set it up so that it does sound good and, getting the right EQs for certain things, getting exactly the right amount of level in certain effects and dialing them in has been really quite invaluable. So there are upsides to being stuck at home, which is just honing your sound, isn't it?
Definitely. And especially, when you're doing it, that one-man show as well, you can't rely on a drummer to self-mix. You can't rely on the bass player just to go tweak a few knobs. You're there on your own.
Absolutely.
So it's good to be able to get that right straight out of the bat. So you turn up, you know where everything is, and you go boom and go.
Yeah, you're right.
You don't have anyone by your side. It's when I used to play with Mohawk or Space Rocks, the mixing desk was always my side of the stage because Spencer, who was singing, he might need to change things, but he's at the front of the stage talking to the audience, singing the songs.
Right.
I can kind of hide off into the bing and just tweak a control.
Why do you think it always...
You don't have that wingman.
Why do you think it's always the bass player?
Because we know the most. We're the best.
Well, boasting bossist. Okay, so... Basting. Oh. I've just pictured your head on a turkey. I don't know why. just a very, very suggestive and seductive turkey body. Right. If anybody listening in could Photoshop that would be great. I'll tell you what, that interesting to your point there about mixing is whilst doing the Lockabilly's live stream, I'm doing that every Saturday. My solo stuff, I think I'm going to start doing every other week, and the same thing with the Buccaneers, doing them every other week just because, the demand isn't quite as high. And, keep on wanting more. That's always the way to do it, isn't it? The interesting thing with the Lockabilly's thing is that I've been doing it 2 backing tracks, so getting these karaoke versions or jam tracks from old books of jams, that would teach you how to play the Rockabilly song, and then would give you the backing for you to play over the top of it. Now the difficult thing with that is actually matching the levels, because I'll be playing them off my phone, and that will be going straight into the desk, which then goes into the interface, which then goes into the computer. So it's very much unfiltered. What volume it's going to be, because I'm not sitting there riding the faders while I'm playing. So if I'll play one song and they'll be really quiet, so I'll boost it, and then the next one will be absolutely massive, and I can almost see people jumping out of their skin if they're listening on headphones when this very loud backing track comes in. So Harley, I'd like to pick your brains. How would I solve that problem? Here's Harley's tech corner.
Okay, I would. You can use a program called QLab on your computer and run that out of a separate output to the sound card that you're using. Just run that out of the headphones out.
Right.
And that has separate controls on each. Every file has its own fader.
Right.
And it's really good. You can launch it from a foot pedal if you want, so you can do it completely foot free. Mm-hmm. You can even... I could be wrong on this. You might be able to run it through your Helix as well. Not run it through the Helix, but you could assign a button on your Helix to launch the next song.
I see what you mean. That's interesting. I mean, and in terms of just doing stuff pre instead of having to do it live, if I've just put all the tracks into Logic, would there be a magic plugin I could put on that would make everything the right level?
Essentially, you either need some way of either normalizing stuff or a limiter.
Yes.
Like a limiter would work to a certain point, but you may lose some dynamic in the song itself.
Right.
There is a thing called an adaptive limiter, which I assume does a slightly better job of it. I don't know. I've not tried it, but have a little research into the adaptive limiter. That might do the trick.
Yeah, I use that quite regularly on vocals, just to make sure they punch through in a mix.
Yeah, that's something that's worth worth using. But the thing is, you can also just look at the file, the waveform, and just see which one seems thicker, which some seems thinner. Because a normalizer will only go to the loudest peak. So if you've got a very heavy crack on the snare, but everything else underneath it's quite quiet, it won't be any louder. So you kind of just want to kind of play it by ear and work it out from there, really.
Yeah, it's interesting, isn't it? So yeah, that's the problem. I really miss playing in a band right now. That, you know.
Yes. I was chatting with a friend last night, just that exact thing.
Because I'm playing along to
Paolo.
I'm playing along to backing tracks and doing these songs that I'm so used to been playing for sort of 4 or 5 years that you know, my friends would be playing them completely differently. But to the record is just so robotic, and you can't, you know, drag it back if you wanted to slow it down, or you couldn't, you know, add extra dynamics to a certain section. So I'm quite disliking it, but I just feel it's better to have a beat and have a backing for it to be a Lockabilly's gig. Otherwise, it's just me playing acoustic, which kind of everybody's doing, and it doesn't really fit what people watch us for, you know.
I chimed in briefly on your live show last week. I don't know if I was watching it live. I might have watched it post-show.
Well, thank you.
But I really liked one of the arrangements of one of the songs that you recorded a while ago. I don't know if it's been released or not, but it's a very different not arrangement, just a very different palette of sounds, and I really like what you've done with it.
Cheers, man.
It's really good.
It's limiting what you can do without very talented people around you, you know, sort of working with your ideas and then adding their own parts to it. But, you know, you've got to do what the best you can. Anyway, I'm going to move away.
Sometimes it's good to work with limitations.
Absolutely. Adaptive limitations. So an interesting thing that I was talking to you about before, which was making playlists for people. Because I think at the moment, the mixtape is dead, right? I've harped on about this, and I remember sitting there, you know, with like different CDs that I had. I loved one track from one CD and a different track from a different CD, so I'd sit there with the tape player recording those bits to tape, and I would put them out because I used to have an old Honda Civic, and the only thing that you could play music on was a tape. And do you remember those tape adapters that you could have? So it'd be a tape going in and then a jack coming out to put on your phone and your iPod. And I liked that, but I actually preferred to be able to sit there and choose a tape and actually make something that I liked. But you just don't do that anymore for people, because people don't really have CD players in their car, and in new cars anyway. And even in laptops, they don't even have disk drives a lot of the time. So making Spotify playlists for people, I think, is the way forward. So I did one for Frankie a while back, which was kind of like a 60s garage rock kind of style thing with like the Stooges on there and the Animals. But then recently I've noticed her listening to a lot more electronica and techno. And I'm just remembering the days of me just sort of listening to Floating Points and Mount Kimby and Bonobo and all these bands that, well, artists and DJs and producers that I still absolutely love and think they're great songwriters and push the boundaries of what kind of modern and futuristic music can sound like. So I delved into my old sort of electronica back catalogue to make her this sort of mixtape for her. And I got very carried away. Because I mean, the last mixtape I made for her was probably about 2 hours long. This one was like 5 hours.
Wow!
She looked at it. She was like, "I'm not going to get through this, but thank you." But she has been listening. She's, you know, it's really interesting because I've been sitting there going, I knew you'd like this artist for ages. And then I'll put it on there and she's actually like, actually, it's not really my thing. But, you know, appreciate the offer. Or some stuff that she'd just be like, oh, that is exactly what I like. Thank you for introducing me to this because this is great music, you know. So that got me thinking, what kind of playlist do you think that you would make, specifically you, Harley, for Charlie?
Oh, that's an interesting one because she doesn't share the love for the heavy music or the heavier music. I wouldn't say I'm into like heavy music.
Yeah,
but
I've constantly listened to you watching Cannibal Corpse. You know.
Yeah. I like compared to her, my palette is a lot more distorted.
Nice.
So I think I'd probably find some introductory music that for that kind of thing for her,
right? Sort of proto rock,
some kind of yeah, sort of on the way that shares the ideals of the music that I like without being a shock to the system.
Right, yeah, just sort of being melodic and being good songs, but
Yeah.
also being quite heavy. So like Zeppelin or the Stones or something like this, or the Beatles.
Yeah. Oh yeah, she that's the point. She has a very wide palette of music. Like, she'll surprise me. We'll be sitting there. She listens to a lot of country music and stuff like that. And then I walk in the room and she'll have some ELO playing or
Nice.
Stuff like that. And I'm like, I just never would have considered that would be her thing. But hey, she surprises me in many ways.
I know. I love being a surprise in a music taste. I mean, like, I've been doing a lot of gardening and housework and stuff, and I like to have
That's a surprise.
and that is, and like sort of having lots of music blaring out of the house. And then my neighbours must think we're absolutely insane, because one minute I'll be listening to Slipknot, the next minute I'll be listening to Ry Cooder, the next minute I'll be listening to some Mount Kimby, some nice sort of smooth sounding electronica, and then we'll be listening to some techno, and then I've got Pink Floyd coming out, and then some Stray Cats, or Johnny Burnett. So yeah, it's good to be a surprise, and it's good to be a kind of a weird mosaic of music, I think.
Definitely, yeah, it's good to have that.
So you reckon?
Yeah, so I think that'd probably be where it would be for me, that kind of stuff.
That's a good idea. Well, so, people listening in, if you've made a mixtape or a playlist for someone, we'd love to know about it, and we'd love to know what you kind of, included on there. And if you are stuck for what kind of playlist to give to your loved one, we do have a Spotify playlist ourselves called the Harley and Josh Show, which has some amazing music on there for you to look out for. So there we go. So, I was doing the live streams over the weekend, had a little bit of one. I've cleared the garage up, so I've been doing my Buccaneers one in there, which looks a bit more like a little pirate cave in there, which is fun. And recorded some guitar and vocals for some covers that the Lockabillies and I are doing. We've got some ideas for videos that we want to give to people, just as that we're doing some funny covers, like left field kind of thing, just to make people laugh.
That's cool. What's great about this kind of time is you can't, especially as a live band, you can't sell anything. So you might as well just have fun.
Yeah, it's true. Absolutely.
There's no point advertising a gig that's not happening. Or, trying to book a wedding because, there's not... I mean, we're still getting wedding bookings coming in, but that might not be on the top of someone's mind because they don't know when they're going to actually have one.
Speaking of weddings, emotional time. Owen and Jessica were a couple that we were supposed to be playing their wedding last weekend, and obviously it got cancelled. So Owen got in touch with me and just said, we've got to cancel. I'm so sorry. And I was like, it's fine, but we are playing this Saturday. I'm doing a live stream on the night that their wedding was supposed to be. So I said, why don't you try and surprise Jessica and get her on it, and then I'll play your first dance. So I played their first dance, which was Stand By Me.
Oh, man.
And give them a shout out, and there were lots of people on the stream just giving them lots of love. And also the very sad thing was the fact that they're both frontline NHS workers. So not only are they missing their wedding, but they are working their absolute buttocks off. So I'm really glad that we could find a little bit of love and happiness in the middle of all that.
Well done, man. Nice
That was nice of them. I think it was a great idea for them to get involved in that one. Just a couple more things that I did over the past couple of weeks. The Meths have released their new video for Get Real, which I actually did a little cameo in. They got lots of their fans to record videos of them playing along to the track and just dancing along to it and singing along. It's great. It's all about fake news and not believing everything you read just because it's written down. Like, listening to podcasts and thinking that they're speaking the ultimate truth, because we're not. We're idiots. Yeah, so that was really fun. So if you can find out the Meths, they're from Colchester and around the area, and the song great, very very short song, and it's got a great twist at the end. So that's fun. I was at Moorland, primary school, and teaching and sort of mostly childminding for key workers, children. There'd be sort of about 10 or 11 kids that I'll be looking after, and just sort of giving them music workshops and teaching them how to write lyrics, etc. But also just showing them how to make puppets and taking them out for a run and doing hide and seek and doing Easter egg hunts and stuff. It's been well fun. Awesome. Yeah, right. But the funny thing is that there's still time to give them homework, and they've got to have homework, and some of the parents just aren't picking up the homework. So we took matters into our own hands, and I just basically went out in the van, went around the community just giving homework out to the kids, just posting it through their letterbox or just knocking on the door and just, dealing with their dogs. I really have a newfound respect for posties. It was quite funny just watching people, see this man driving around in the blacked out Ford Transit, tinted windows, full black, just coming up. Is this your child's homework? Absolutely terrifying. So that was fun.
Brilliant.
But yeah, so that's pretty much what I did, Harley. Thanks for the applause, everybody.
Nice.
Thank you. Oh, my breath smells really bad. Nasty.
Nice.
So I think we should move on to some news, Harley.
Music news. Here we go with music news.
And I have some horrible news just to start off with.
Great.
Which is the Black Horse has closed down.
Yes,
right?
I heard about that.
How awful is that? I mean, they actually had this planned before lockdown went into effect. They were going to be closing up, and in the summer having a big, farewell party to the landlords, and it was their birthday as well. So they were going to be having a big birthday bash. And then hopefully moving it on to a different, different manager or owner or whatever. But because of all this, nobody's really looking in the market to buying a pub at the moment or running a pub because you can't do anything.
Yeah, that's a shame. Yeah, that was a really good pub, a great supporter of music, and had a great following of music lovers as well.
Absolutely. So, good luck to the Black Horse. We really hope it does come back swinging once this is all over. That should be the new when this is all over, because everybody says it all the time now. When this is all over, let's talk about some interesting stuff away from Ipswich. Harley, you had an interesting news story that you came to me with before the podcast. Do you wish to tell us about it?
I do. Now, this is a really cool story. It's a band doing the right thing in a bad situation.
Good.
So Bon Jovi, as everyone knows.
John Bovey.
John Bovey, as his birth
That's
name.
his tribute act.
Instead of postponing their tour, they've cancelled their tour so fans can easily get refunds.
That's interesting, isn't it?
So that's a really good move on their part. Like, it's really nice of them to kind of, like, they're looking out for their fans in this situation. They were supposed to do a big tour starting on the 10th of June, but they've decided the 20-show concert would have to be sidelined, and unfortunately they'll reschedule it. But they've decided, rather than to reschedule where people don't get a refund and the tickets get or the dates get rejigged around, which I've been the wrong end of that. When I had tickets to go see a band, they rescheduled and I wasn't able to make the rescheduled date.
And if it's anything like the other big concerts, some of the tickets of these would be hundreds of pounds. And so people really need that money right now.
Yeah, I mean, I'm guessing it's like stadium level tour. They were going to finish off at Madison Square Gardens to do a 2-day tour, 2-day event there. So yeah, it's a real shame. Now, this is kind of there's been a lot of controversy over like ticket refunds over event cancellations. I'd just like to point out all of our news. I believe all of our news today comes from Digital Music News.
Does,
is that right?
Yes.
So if you want more information on this, go to Digital Music News, search Bon Jovi, I'm sure it will come up. Digital Music News also reported last week that Ticketmaster had quietly updated its refund fine print, only offering cashback options for only tickets for events that have been cancelled. So if you've got an event that you bought tickets via Ticketmaster and they postpone a gig, even if they don't give a new date, you are not necessarily going to be able to get a refund for that.
Yeah,
which is it's a
moral
difficult
maze
in this
really,
time because some people might need that
absolutely
money.
It's a moral maze because there's the thing of we all want our music industry to thrive and it to be if not the same as it was before lockdown, better once we come out of it. That's our hope. And so companies doing this, it's not the best for us consumers. However, for their stock price and their shares, that's different, because they're going to end up being able to hold on to some of their money instead of having to constantly refund everybody. So you think it's quite a shrewd business decision, but in the end, it just makes people trust that company less, doesn't they?
And that's the thing is, they're a large company, and it's really nice that you've got the band, or at least the management of the band, whoever made that decision, going, let's think about our fans, because we need to have their interest at heart, because it seems like the companies that are selling the tickets don't have the fans' interest at heart. They're just looking after themselves more so.
Absolutely, which is sad, isn't it?
It is a bit, isn't it? It's there's I kept the sentence in there because I found it quite funny. It says, fan brackets and politician responses to the perceived policy switch up was predictably negative.
Just a bit. Yeah, crikey.
What would it be? Would it be? So hey.
But it's apparently, if you are listening to this before May 31st, Ticketmaster customers have to request refunds, which they've got this kind of 30-day long refund window for ticket holders. They've got to do it by May 31st. And if you do have tickets to shows slated for August 1st or later, you cannot get your money back, because that's kind of their cut-off point. So there's a heads up just in case you are affected by that.
Yeah. That's interesting. Yeah. So, there's a lot to discuss. They're still cancelling events. Green Day had to postpone or cancel a lot of dates on the first half of their tour. They did say, however, their UK dates will still go ahead. This is for their tour with Weezer and Fall Out Boy, which I'm hoping to go on to.
Oh, God, that was absolutely an amazing lineup that never happened, isn't it?
Yeah, well, it may still happen. Like I say, they're still saying that the UK dates are still going ahead as planned.
Was it called like the Super Mega Rad Tour or something?
Yeah, Super Mega Awesome
Radical Bogus Tour. Right, yeah. Well, it's very interesting. I mean, to see how the live industry will be working. I think the recording industry is going to see a lot more supply to what the demand is.
Yes.
Because there's just going to be so many people releasing stuff that it might just flood the market a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I've already seen a lot of bands releasing albums early. An interesting story that did come up that didn't quite make the cut for our news decision, that Taylor Swift's old record label, Big Machine, released a live album that she did in 2008 without even letting her know.
Mm-hmm. There's been a very bitter feud between those two for quite a while now.
Yes.
And it does raise some questions about, whether you are the rights holder of something or whether you are the creator of something aren't always the same thing. So she created these songs, but this guy who bought it out, I can't remember what the name of it is, but he sounds like a bit of just a shrewd businessman that's not really thinking about the cultural impact of it. Just re-releasing stuff. Yeah. So what I thought was quite an interesting sting at the tail of that article was that, so one, her fans fought back and just basically took the album that they released and put it up on YouTube and just kept uploading it onto YouTube so that they don't get the money from the ads or from any of the album sales, because people are just watching it on YouTube for free. Or also was that Taylor Swift is thinking about re-recording all of the albums that they're re-releasing later on this year when the agreements, the contract is up. So she'll just sort of go back over her old material, either in new styles or completely the same, which I think will be a really interesting study into the development of an artist and what their fans think about them.
Yeah. I know there's a I think it was a best of album that NoFX did a little while ago, and they re-recorded a lot of those songs, and they did it like note for note essentially as the originals, but then just the recording quality was different because they were not necessarily better, just different because they were done in a different studio.
Different technical
they didn't own the rights to those previous songs.
Yeah, that's good. I mean, my buddy Valentine constantly do that, where they would just re-record and remaster all their works because there's better advances in technology that would just make their sound exactly what they wanted in the first place. So I think that'll be interesting to keep an eye on is what she sounds like on these newer versions, and whether she'll keep to the country roots of some of them or she will completely update them to her new pop style. But, yeah. Let's move on to another news story, Harley, and then we'll have a little discussion over something that comes up in this, because over 12 million people, I think it's about 12.3 million people, watched Travis Scott perform on a Fortnite live stream. So if people aren't quite sure what that means, so Fortnite, you know.
I'm certainly not.
Well, I mean, so Fortnite is an online game where people just shoot each other, right? So you create your own avatar, so you can look however you want in this computer-generated environment. And there's a lot of buy-ins to the franchise from different companies outside of it. I mean, I remember when Star Wars, I think it was The Last Jedi, the Rise of Skywalker came out, they had a big expansion pack within Fortnite where you could play part of the story as actual canon within the Star Wars universe, which is unprecedented. So this company, I think it's Epic Games, are really pushing the boundaries of what can be done with games. And so what they do with Marshmello, the electronic artist, had previously done this. What they do is they create a digital avatar of that character or artist, so Travis Scott or Marshmello, and they'll put them in the game on a stage while people are around shooting people up. Or you can literally just stand and watch the show. So it's a digital recreation of a show. It's all CGI, but that really does push the boundaries of what you can do with a live show. You know, if you want the stage to completely lift off and go to the moon, then it can. If you want it to explode and the artists jump out of it, you know, in a ball of flame and continue singing, then you can. The interesting thing that I found was that it's noting that there's 12.3 million people was on there. The number was only accounts for actual in-game players, so that were on that particular map. So plenty of people tuned in to watch the concert through another player's eyes on Twitch, you know, when you rewatch somebody playing something, and or YouTube. So there's rewatch value there as well. And so the total viewership will grow in the coming days as the event has like encore performances and stuff. It's kind of strange that more artists and entertainers haven't done this. I mean, there's only two people, Marshmello, which people barely know who that is, and Travis Scott, which people barely know who that is. I mean, well, Travis Scott is huge and Marshmello is huge, but people listening in, I'm sure, there'll be some of you going, who are you talking about? And yet they've had 12.3 million people at a concert, which, I mean, do you know off the top of your head what the biggest attendance for a concert has ever been?
Oh, was it one of yours?
Thank you. My ego is very, very grateful. So, like, the highest attending concert, apparently the oldest one is 100,000, which was Grateful Dead at the Raceway. So that's in the 60s. But I mean, Vasco Rossi, he had 225,000 people at the Medina Park. Who else we got here? Paul McCartney in Rio de Janeiro had 184,000 people. Frank Sinatra in 1980 had 175,000 people in Rio de Janeiro. So that is nothing in comparison to 12.3 million people. And you think about the concert itself, how many people are actually watching, or are they just there?
Oh yeah, right. But there again, you could say the same thing at a gig with 183,000 people. Those people at the back are not getting a good show.
Yeah, that's what I was thinking as well. Like, some people are just there. They're kind of half watching the show, but most of the time they're just there to hang out with their mates. Some people are walking around just selling merch, but they'd be counted within the crowd. Other people are just there to sell other merchandise, which I won't go into on here. And they're not actually watching the gig. So the numbers get very skewed. But that, why aren't more people doing this? Why aren't bigger artists doing this? Do you think it's that they think it's beneath them or something?
I think it is one of those things it's hard to be in touch with that kind of thing, and it's a crossover. So we all talk about people like Rob. His understanding of Fortnite is his kid plays it. He sees him playing a game and think, oh, he's playing a game. He's playing it online with his mates.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think the thought of, I wonder if I could do a gig there would ever have crossed anyone's mind.
Yeah, good point.
It's taken some people who are, admittedly, Travis Scott, I've just Googled him, he's the same age as me. Someone who I would still say I'm still way older than the Fortnite demographic.
Mm-hmm.
And to kind of take that on board to make it happen and to realise that that's a thing that could happen.
I think it makes it.
Now we've had.
It makes sense when it's an artist that these people know and like. Marshmello had pretty much soundtracked Fortnite, and so when he does a concert, people absolutely love it. Travis Scott is of that demographic because he has been going for a long time and is very successful, but his popularity has only started to rise in the last few years, and there is a generational aspect to that, and so it takes a little bit of sly and savvy business, ideals to take into this, where Fortnite are like, okay, so if we give this guy a cut or some cut of the merchandise that comes off this, or if people are buying memberships to join in the game specifically for this concert, then he should get that. But so Travis Scott gets a bunch of money, his record label gets a bunch of money for this appearance, and Fortnite gets a bunch of new users because there's some people that would be massive Travis Scott fans but never paid Fortnite, and then suddenly are going to have a new account just to watch the special event.
You got a Venn diagram right now,
right? Yeah, just people meeting in the middle.
There we go. Yeah, it's great. Like I say, when all this sort of started happening, a lot of people did the same thing as you're doing. Your place was going to Facebook because that's where your target market potentially are.
Mm-hmm. In the Lockabilly's gigs, yeah.
People yeah, exactly. And that's where a lot of people are going because it's a already understood medium. Whereas these other guys, they're going to a almost, a brand new pasture of unknown, but they've already got a younger demographic to kind of make a start with that kind of thing. So,
Yeah, I've already had complaints from people on my Instagrams and they're going, why aren't you streaming on this? And there's also people, coming at me saying, I barely use Facebook. Why don't you do it on Twitch? And again, that's very rare that somebody that plays 50s music would actually find an audience on either of those platforms. So I think Facebook with the older demographic, I just know that I would have more watchers, more viewers anyway, than if I went on one of these sites. Which brings me on to the bit that I would like to pick your brains on, Harley.
This morning.
Do you think that live streaming gigs is going to be the future?
I think it's going to become a much more of an accepted medium. Especially, I think what's happened with this is it's forced people to learn how these things work and kind of understand that idea. You will have those people who aren't technically minded who go, why am I going to watch a film on a gig on a screen,
right,
and anything like that, as well as the people like us going, how do we do that?
Yeah.
So
I think it's an interesting thing there because there'll be some people sit there and going, okay, I see this for the necessity of it. If I want to see live music, that's the only way that I can do it right now. And I would like to know whether there will be a large percentage of people that will be actually won over by that and suddenly say, oh man, I want to watch all of my live gigs like this, because maybe they've got some social anxiety, they don't really like going out to big crowds, but they still like to see musicians perform the best they can, the songs that they love. So I think there'll be people sort of converting for that, but I'm not sure that there'll be that many people that will be converting because they just like it better.
No, it is nice to watch a gig without having your ears ringing afterwards.
True.
That is always nice. But I don't think you'll like that live experience, that watching a band, that being in a live, that the electricity in the air, that, and also that kind of,
if they haven't pat tested
communal
anything,
spirit, like you say. Yeah, that's true. But like what I was saying, you get a vibe from an audience, not without them having to say anything. You can tell whether they're having a good time or if they're having a bad time from just the vibe in that room. You'll never replace that. I think that's what will keep people coming online.
Yeah, and I've noticed in my own mental state when I'm watching the screen while I'm playing, I'm kind of just looking at myself back at me, which is weird. I don't like it. And also, you'll be seeing the reactions coming in, and every once in a while you'll just sort of see this angry emoji come up, and you're just going, "Oh no, what does that mean? Oh, do I have to change what I'm doing now?" Whereas at a gig, the only time you'd really feel like people were having a bad time is if they just weren't paying attention, didn't clap, or they booed. And you could kind of read it off their faces and stuff. So just reading it off comments and emojis is, from a performer's perspective, I despise it. It's horrible. So I've been, luckily I've had Frankie in the room when I've been doing live streams, so I just look at her when I'm doing it, and that makes me feel better. That makes me feel better.
Yeah, at least you have one person in the room who could applaud it.
Yeah, she goes, thanks. You have to do that because I help you pay the rent.
So just to wrap things up, and talking of live streams and stuff, have you got any lives? Are you planning to do any more live streams?
I'm going to keep going on the regular on Saturdays with JS and the Lockabillies, and I've been taking requests, prior to the day, so that I can get a backing track ready for it. I'm going to keep doing some Buccaneers stuff, and I'm going to keep going with my solo stuff, just to really get myself ready for when we can gig again.
Yeah, fair enough. Nice, man. That's it's good to keep it going.
We've got a big list.
It's an excuse to sing as well.
People. Yeah, you're right. I mean, what about you? Are you thinking about doing a live stream anytime soon with Charlie or by yourself?
We've talked about it. We haven't actually made any steps to kind of do it just yet. We're trying to
get
work
the songs
out
first. Get the songs ready first.
Yeah. We've still got a fairly limited set, so we don't want to do. But yeah, we'd like to do something like that. We'll get there eventually, I'm sure.
So. Let's shout out some people that are doing it. We did put out a shout out on our Facebook page, asking for people to let us know when they're gigging and whether they do any music tuition, or if they're writing anything, or if they're recording anything. So we did get some people coming back, but we always want more. So if you are listening and you've got stuff that you'd like us to shout out, do let us know. We're on Facebook, we're on Instagram, we've got our Spotify, and we also have an email, harleyandjoshshow@gmail.com. So first, I've got a comment from Mr. Rob Lewis, the Love Gun Fighter.
He's been doing quite a few.
He's been doing really well, yeah, absolutely. He says, I'm playing online gigs when I should have been playing a real gig. So, every time he would have had a booking, that's when he's going to do a live gig anyway. He says, I'm also still doing private online tuition, recording some bits and pieces and a little bit of writing. And my KISS gig last Saturday required a lot of rehearsal, so that kept me busy. Well done, Bowie. Well done, Bowie,
nice
indeed.
One.
There's a lot. Have you got any that you'd like to shout out, Harley?
As far as I'm aware, Rain is still doing his regular. I think he's doing Monday evening and Friday evening request live streams.
Yes, indeed, he is.
Live request drum covers, which are awesome. I will get more. Well, just go off his YouTube channel. He's really good at social media, so he'll be sharing that all with you guys anyway.
Ollie Milton, our mate, has been putting a couple of live take covers on Bandcamp. He says, hope you guys are well. Oh, thanks, mate. So he found us on Instagram. You can just find him as Ollie Athens on there for some reason. I think maybe just went to Athens for quite a while, didn't he? So yeah, he's been putting some stuff on Bandcamp, so you can find him out there. Simon Goldsmith, our mate, that lovely man, Mr. Harry Isaac Presley, has been doing some online gigs and also has been recording some videos of him singing with a bunch of his fans and his missus, which has been really fun to watch, actually. He brings a smile to our faces, doesn't he?
Oh, it does.
Oh, he does.
Oh, yes.
So, yeah, nice one. Also, he's been very generous to Age UK Suffolk when I've been raising money. We've almost raised about 1,200 quid for Age UK on doing the live streams.
Amazing, man. Well done.
Thank you. And people have been really benefiting from it already, so I'm really happy about that. We've got to spread a bit of love,
that's
right?
Really good.
And also,
definitely.
I've been putting up our PayPal link for the Lockabillies to help us record a new album as we've been talking about doing this concept album for ages. So the time is now, and people have helped. I mean, we've raised about 250 quid already just for people being lovely. And Simon, Mr. Harry Oswick Presley, has been helping out with that. So on air, thank you, mate, for that. Speaking of on air, Honey and the Bear have been doing some stuff as well.
Oh yeah.
They've been doing bear stuff, mate. And yeah, they're all over their Facebook live streams. If you like your Americana, you like your folk, and you like just something to chill out to that sounds lovely, John and Lucy are the best. So Honey and Bear, check them out. Our mate Justine as well, Lady J. She's been busking as well online. She's been doing stuff every week at least, I think. And BBC Music Introducing have been shouting her out as well. Brooke Telling, we've played her on the show before. She also does multiple live streams, and she's from round here. We like her. She's got some nice chilled out tunes. British, David T. British has been doing some hip hop. So if you are more hip hop inclined, he's there for you. And I'm not sure how regularly all these people are doing these, but if you do find their social media pages, they will tell you better than we can. Tim Thorpe from the 4 O'Clock Robots are honing their social distancing recording techniques and will bring you some tunes shortly. Best place to find us, he says, is search 4 O'Clock Robots on YouTube. So nice one, Tim, for that one. I hope everybody checks them out. They're mental. I love it. And also we've had some stuff from Matt from the Torsion Field. He says their album Gravity and Time is out on most online stores. If you could give that a shout out. I just did. So there you go, mate. Andy Heesman's the bass player for that one. Or is he the bass player or is he the guitarist? I can't remember.
I think he's bass player.
Yeah, and he produced it as well. So nice one, Eddie.
Great stuff.
And last thing we had shout out on Instagram. Thanks for Alice the Camel. Alfie Wymark, our mate, has been doing online bass lessons on the double bass and electric bass, and he is a real pro.
He's a great bass player.
So if you want some
if
you want some good double bass, classical, jazz, or any old picado technique, pizzicato, talk to Mr. Alfie Wymark. He's on YouTube. No, he's on Instagram way more than he is on Facebook, I think.
Yes. Yeah, help check him out.
Yeah, and also both of us, we both teach. So if anybody is looking for guitar or bass lessons, do get in touch because,
definitely.
I've actually not got a lot of time, but if you do want,
no, you're a very busy boy.
I'm quite booked up with lessons. But if you guys do feel like you need some help, please do let us know. And you can quote the promotional code Harley and Josh Show 2020, and you'll get a free lesson. Don't quote that.
No, I don't know. Please. Sweet. Okay, then. We'll we'll see you. I don't want to say next week. We'll say next time. We'll see how we go because I'm losing track of days. I have no idea what day of the week it is right now.
And it's also we've got to be able to. I
haven't done for some time.
So from me, Harley Cotton, I'd love to say goodbye.
And from me, Josh Locke, I'd like to say Harley is the best.
I do say that. That is my catchphrase.
Oh, you do, damn it.
Do remember, everybody, we do have our Spotify playlist. We do have regular games every week on our Facebook, and they've been popping off, actually, seeing as, because everybody's stuck inside. So if you do find yourself bored, go over to the Harley and Josh Show Facebook page, and you will be on board.
Hope so. Wonderful.
Right, then.
We'll see you guys next time.
Love you. Bye.
Love you. Bye.